What's up, guys? Welcome to a potentially dud episode. We'll see. Got my telescope out. It's winter solstice. Happy solstice for those who partake. Longest night of the year. It's astrophotographer's favorite night of the year. Alright, so just in case, I got a new telescope that I haven't messed with yet, and it's different from my old telescope, and of course I waited till the last day. So just in case none of that goes right, I've got the R5 in the 800 and the R6 in the 800, and I know that I can get some shots with that. So if worse comes to worse, that's what happens, then that's what we'll go with. But hopefully I will get to show you guys some images from this. This is my Celestron Nexstar 5 SE, and it's quite nice. It's a really great travel telescope, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Alright, so I did something really stupid, which is pretty typical. I forgot my telescope tripod. I may have engineered something, and I thought it might be worth a try. So we have, instead of 3 legs, we have 9. This might be the most ridiculous looking thing you've ever seen. I don't know if it's going to work or not. We're gonna find out. This is one of those do as I say, not as I do episodes. It probably won't be a tutorial, so maybe I don't recommend doing this at home. We'll see how it turns out. Alright. I mean, that's not too bad. I even got my gimpy tripod on here. Okay. Not stable yet. The problem is we can't level this out at all, so we have to do it using these multiple legs. Oh my god, was that not the funniest thing you've ever seen in your life? Maybe I thought it was more comical than it was, considering how bad I messed up. But today, rocking the jasmine green tea for health and motivation. But today I wanted to kind of go over, take a look, not do a recap. You know, I've seen a lot of videos where people were showing just their best images and just talking about 2020 and all that stuff, and all of the crazy 2020 stuff aside, you know, the pandemic and all of the really crappiness. I wanted to look at, I mess up a lot. I know it's easy to look at either, you know, my YouTube videos or my Instagram or whatever, wherever I post my images, and it's easy to look at any professionals, or not just professional, but anybody's social media or anything like that, and see only the best because we're choosing to put out what we want. But definitely in my case, and obviously I can't speak for everybody else, but definitely in my case, I've messed up a lot this year. And some of them, like that intro, I felt were kind of comical, and some of them I just really kicking myself on. So I thought that would be a cool topic to show you guys some of my biggest failures, and of course some of my favorite images from this year, because even though we've been in, you know, lockdown and all of that stuff, luckily I'm super fortunate, and I say this in probably every video, I'm super fortunate that I live out here in the mountains in southwest New Mexico, and even though I haven't left my state. I mean, I guess technically I could have, I chose not to. Even though I haven't left my state for an entire year, pretty much, no, I haven't left New Mexico at all. I came back to New Mexico after being gone for a big part of 2019. I came back January 17th, and then I went straight to Death Valley for a workshop, and then I came back, and I haven't left New Mexico since. And my whole point with that ramble was I'm extremely lucky and grateful to live in such an amazing place where I was still able to get out and enjoy the mountains and have my own little adventures away from everybody, and continue to do my YouTube and enjoy nature and all of that good stuff. So we're going to talk about all that, the goods, the bads, the funnies, the not so funnies. So let's get into it. So since we started off with the whole mishap with the telescope and all that, let's take a look at this image and let's just talk about it for a second. it's a pretty crap image from my standpoint. I have kind of made a name for myself over the past 5 years or so as a natural phenomenon photographer. A lot of you know that. And, you know, without tooting my own horn or anything, I've become pretty good at capturing natural phenomenon. And it's one of my favorite things to do. And this was definitely high up on the list. And I had gotten this whole new telescope and I've been ready, but I wasn't so ready. And this is where a big part of the failure comes in, is that I didn't practice with the new telescope like I should have. I didn't do the types of trial runs that I should have with the telescope. And then the biggest failure, of course, if you guys saw in the intro clip, was just forgetting stuff. And I mean, professional or not, it doesn't matter who you are. If you forget something, you forget something. And you know, of course, luckily this was just something for me. It wasn't for a client. I'm a lot more organized when it comes to that kind of stuff, and I should have been in my personal life. I should have had, you know, a checklist like I do when I go on professional shoots and when the stakes are high, because the stakes were high for this. This was a one-time deal, you know, and I missed it, and that part is not so laughable. It's not so funny. You know, because I forgot my power pack to that one simple thing. If I would have remembered, I brought the charger, I brought the cord, I brought everything else except for the tripod. That was the funny bit. But I made the tripod work, you know, and all of that stuff would have been, I could have been ready to roll. I was there in time. I had everything, even with the setback from the tripod, everything set up. But forgetting that power pack, forgetting the power source, that was my downfall. And then now, because of it, this image, I'm lucky that I had an 800, and I had some family there with me. I had my wife and son, obviously, but we had my wife's mother there too, and she really wanted to see this, and you know, I really wanted to be able to show for everybody. So I'm glad that I had the 800 to at least show everybody. So Tristan was able to look into the camera, and my mother-in-law, and all this stuff, and actually see something that they would have never otherwise seen. So that was cool. But just this image is just, it's a single shot. Actually, it's a blend of shots. So this is two shots blended together, because you can't, Jupiter's so bright, you can't capture the moon. You can't capture the moons of Jupiter and Saturn all in the same shot, and you can already see that Saturn is a lot less, Jupiter is a lot brighter than Saturn too. So to properly expose, you would have had to blend, and I wanted to get the moons in there as well. So, but this is a 90% crop on the R5 from an 800 millimeter. I mean, it's just, it wasn't long enough. No telescope, no teleconverters. Even teleconverter would have helped even a little bit more. So that was definitely my biggest failure, I think, just from a personal standpoint. I was really disappointed. I'm thankful that I captured it. I'm thankful that I saw it. I'm thankful that I even got clear skies. However, just a lot of these disappointments that you're going to see in this video are basically me knowing that they could have been better. Knowing my skills and my gear and all of that and my situation and all of that stuff, I know that's what makes them so disappointing to me, is that I know how much better they could have been, and this was the biggest of the bunch. So here's a good failure. I actually made a whole vlog about this, and the vlog itself and the rest of the images from the vlog were some of my favorites. It was absolutely an amazing day at White Sands, and I think I had rented, this is when I was renting the 800 and I was thinking about buying it. And I wanted to do something fun for you guys. I wanted to do something fun for myself. And if you don't know, I live pretty close to White Sands, just a couple hours away. It's one of the most unique, amazing places on the planet. I go there a lot. I do a lot of workshops there. I just take my family there all the time, so I know it really well. And over the years, I've gotten some amazing images from White Sands. So I really wanted to change things up a little bit, do a video for you guys, and do something that I hadn't done before. And my favorite lens, pretty much of all time, is the 100 to 400. This guy right here, that's pretty much my favorite lens of all time. I use it for so much. And at White Sands, that's no exception. That's probably my favorite lens at White Sands as well. So I wanted to challenge myself and use the 800, and there happened to be a full moon rising. I don't remember if it was a super moon or just a full moon or a blue moon. There was some worm, I think it was the worm moon, and it was something special, but it was a full moon rising at White Sands is always cool. And I had challenged myself to only shoot the 800, and I knew that was going to be a challenge, but I just messed up with time. We were there, we were hanging out with my son, and we were, sledding and just making the day out of it. So we were having fun. So I don't feel bad about that. But I think where I messed up is that the moonrise, just knowing your location, knowing that the moonrise was in the wrong direction that I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be on the other side of the mountains. And, of course, physics doesn't care what you want. It is the way it is, And I knew that to get the dunes, I knew it was going to be really hard with an 800 millimeter because you don't have enough time in White Sands to get very far in a single day. You can't stay there. You can't stay there right now overnight. So, and even when you do stay there overnight, you have to stay in a designated area in terms of where you sleep. So just getting far enough back to still get dunes in the shot with an 800 was really difficult, and I made the mistake of getting a little too low and a little too close to this dune, and I ended up I don't think I even published the image that I got from this because it just looks like the moon coming up over this white thing, and you can't even hardly tell it's a dune. So that shot in particular was a big fail, and I felt really bummed out about that. But I made the whole video, and you can see the rest of it on the video, and overall it was a great day. But that particular shot, and then here's the other fail, is I made the mistake of trying to do too many things at once, and I got a little greedy. I took the shot, what I thought was the shot would be good, and then I was like, you know what, I've got time for a time lapse. So I switched it into time lapse gear, and I switched it into time-lapse mode, and I started to do just a video, and it didn't come out the way I wanted. So by rushing and by trying to do two different things at once, I kind of messed up on both sides of that. And I ended up, I think, getting a very small usable clip of the time-lapse of the moon, but the composition, it just wasn't what I wanted. So that was a pretty big failure. Alright, here we go. We'll take a look at this guy. This is the Neowise Comet, and this is my first attempt out of 3 to photograph it, and I did make a vlog about this. You can check out the entire vlog to see like my process and all of that stuff. Suffice it to say, I hadn't really nailed down my settings, and I hadn't really planned a good composition and all that. The composition is okay, but my execution was just sloppy. After the fact, seeing the images after the fact, I know that I could have done better. And luckily, I had more chances. Again, I'm just so thankful to be in a place where we have so many clear skies out of the year, in 330 days of whatever, of sunshine a year. And I had a lot more chances to see the comet than most people. And I'm 6,000 feet up, and I'm well away from a lot of light pollution. Although I think this light pollution here from the little bit of Silver City did hurt me a little bit in my exposure, and I think I should have done a little bit better job exposure blending and capturing that comet that time. But again, luckily I got subsequent images that were much better, and I will actually show one of those in my best images of the year later. Alright, so believe it or not, I consider this image a bit of a failure, and I think it did pretty well like when I posted it on Instagram or something, but I definitely don't consider Instagram a measurement for my personal best or successful images because some of the images that I really love have just absolutely tanked on social media, and I don't care, and comparison is the death of joy, so just remember that, live by it. The more you compare yourself to others, the more you care about what others think, the more that's going to crush your soul when you create stuff that you love and other people don't feel as strongly about it as you. But this one did pretty well. When you first see it, it's an eye popper. It's got a lot of contrast, got a lot of color, and it's interesting, it's unique, this flower field, the sunset, the blurring of the clouds, the long exposure. This is actually a phone image, and I made a video about this too, so you can check that out. But this is from my S20 Ultra, and this is pretty cool that it came from a phone. But where I messed up is I had to do a lot of editing to this image to even get it to where I wanted it. And what I should have done was bracketed my exposures and focus stacked my I didn't focus stack this image at all, even though phones have really like a lot of depth of field because their sensors and their little lenses are so small and their apertures and all that stuff. Even though I still had it focused on the background, and I was too close to the flowers. So I should have focus stacked that. And that's not really anything that you can super tell just by looking at it on social media and that kind of stuff. But if I wanted to print this out, it wouldn't go very well, at least not to me. So that was definitely kind of a failure on my part, and it wouldn't have taken long at all for me to, you know, an extra 30 seconds either before or after the time lapse to focus stack and exposure bracket and have that extra stuff that I normally grab to edit that. Alright, enough about failure. Let's talk about some successes. So let's get to the good stuff. So these aren't in any particular order, I don't think. I'm just kind of looking at them on my screen here in a big folder that I threw them all in. But this happened to be one of the first images of the year, and that was again from that trip from Death Valley that I mentioned earlier. So this was that morning at sunrise at a very famous spot, and a lot of people were leaving because it looked like the sunrise was going to be a dud, but you know, you should always just stick around, and you just never know what's going to happen. And it turned out that we did get a bit of clouds, and we did get a bit of a sunrise, but the good stuff came right after that when it broke through the clouds, and we had all this nice morning dappled light on the mountains. And I was shooting, I had a couple cameras, I was doing a time lapse with one that was a wider shot, and that one came out okay, but I was picking off long lens stuff. So this is with my 100mm, my 1:400. Again, I think a good chunk of these images are probably going to be from that lens. And I love to just handhold and just kind of really move around when I'm out there doing landscape stuff, because you just have such a good freedom to pick off make the most out of your compositions. And I love this composition. I love this leading line right here with the dry arroyo bed down there, and if you look really hard, you can see for scale there is a little person down there hiking, and that person is perfectly in the center. I didn't Photoshop this at all. That person was hiking right there, and they were in that light, and it just, when you see that after you look at this image for a little while, it really puts some scale into that, and it really just gives it that feeling for me that just makes it a little more powerful in terms of the landscape, and seeing it and just be like, wow, that is cool, because you see that tiny little human element in there. I love how the light over here on this right edge is kind of extending from this leading line of this river, you know, the dry bed pulling you in there. It's not a riverbed. From this dry bed pulling you in there, and then it's just, this light is just coming right into bringing you through the frame and then out the top up here, and you're just following those light lines, those lines, leading lines of light. And it's just, I really love this composition, and I cropped it to a 4x5 for Instagram, and I think that a 5x7 or the regular, whatever it was, 3x2 or 4x3, the regular vertical shot that I took straight from the camera was a better composition for that. But this still, I think this is great, and I had planned on printing this pretty large, but I haven't done it yet. But I think this one is going to look really great as a full-size print, and it's just one of those images that I can stare at for a long time, and just there's always something to look at, and there's always somewhere to go in this image, and it really captured me. It really captivated me. Ooh, here's a good success. So this is actually a phone shot. And again, I made a video about this as well on how to do star trails with the S20. How to do star trails with your phone, period. Just because I had the S20, it doesn't matter. The way that I did it, you can use pretty much any phone. But this just, everything came together. We got the perfect amount of moonlight. As you can see, it was lit up. And we got the perfect amount of stars and no clouds. Again, super lucky, New Mexico, cloudless night. It just really worked out. We had this beautiful mountains in the background and the Gila forest, and this awesome little yucca that was just, I didn't have to do anything because the moonlight was just so perfect. And this is a blend from, I don't know, I usually blend between 50 and 150 images, so it's somewhere in there, but it just came out great, and that's a phone shot, and that's incredible. It was definitely a highlight of my astro season this year. It just came out super great. Yep, so on the astro kick, this is definitely one of my favorite shots, and this was the Comet Neowise, and this was my third and final attempt because it was gone like 2 days later, and I'd actually clouded up like the last couple of days after this. So I was very fortunate again for no clouds, especially because I would have missed it, you know, if I would have waited another day or two thinking, oh, it'll probably be okay. But I did make I'm pretty sure I made a vlog about this as well. And this just came together. I actually took this shot right after I'd finished the vlog, and I decided I wasn't quite happy with the images that I got while I was filming, and I just decided to try something a little bit different right before we left. It was getting late, and the comet was going down. You know, Tristan was hungry, and Brittany was probably ready to go. But I'm really glad that I stuck it out and just on the way out tried this one more shot, and I did the blend, and it ended up working better than any of the other ones before it. And this is actually, that comet is not photoshopped in there. That's the right size and everything. I think that was like 50 mil that I shot it at. Nice compression with that foreground element so close. I did focus stack, so that helped. I got everything right. We had the Loom Cube lighting up the cactus there, the yucca, and that worked out really well. The exposure just came out beautifully. Everything just worked, and I wished I had more time to really get a better composition, but I really can't complain with this, especially after, you know, all things said and done. This was definitely a highlight, and it's not just that the image came out technically fairly nice. I'm really happy with it. And you can see the ion tail in this one. If you look real close right here, you can see the ion tail, which was a separate tail, and that was really, I was really stoked that I captured that. But again, it's the memory. That was a great night, and just seeing something that you're probably not going to see again is just amazing. And then to know that you captured it pretty much the way that you wanted to, that's a huge win for me. Here is probably my favorite shot of 2020. If you asked me if I had to have one image that just blew my mind for 2020 that I took, it would be this shot. This shot was kind of lucky. I had just gone out to grab time lapses. I think I made a video about this too, or I featured this in a video. I don't remember which one. I've done so many videos this year. But I went out to time-lapse because the storm was looking great and it was close to sunset, and I thought, man, if this could light up, I would just be the happiest photographer in the world. But I wasn't expecting it to light up. I was just focused on the monsoon dropping over these mountains, which I love to see. I have a lot of shots like that, and I'd love to see monsoons in the distance over big mountains, and it's just beautiful. So I got a pretty decent composition. I like the foreground. I like how the town is laid out. I put my favorite mountain outside of Silver City dead in the center because I knew which way the clouds were moving, and I knew that I would be able to get the most out of it with this semi-wide angle shot. So this is actually a crop. This is on, I believe this was on the R6, and this was a 16 millimeter. It was a little wide, and this is actually cropped in a bit because I was actually a lot wider. But luckily I still had enough room to crop in after the fact. I didn't even know that I captured this bolt because I was looking a little bit more to camera right from this image, and I had another camera set up. I think I had my R5 or maybe my RP set up, or probably both. And I was trying to capture these bigger bolts that I was seeing on the other mountains, and I don't think it was working out, and so I wasn't really paying attention to this because it was on a time lapse. I did have a filter on there, and it was a long exposure, and it was doing time lapses, and I knew the time lapse was going to come out good anyways. But then when I saw that stuff started to light up, I knew that having that monsoon lit up was by itself going to be amazing, and that I had a decent composition. I checked the back of my screen while the time lapse was going, and I had the right exposure, and I was just super happy. And then I got home and I'm watching the time lapse and I'm rendering the time lapse, and then I see this lightning bolt in dead center. I did not Photoshop this in any way, shape, or form. This nailed dead center of my image in front of my favorite mountain, right in front of the monsoons coming in the background and that light lighting up. It was just holy lightning bolts. That was just absolutely amazing. It was so amazing, in fact, that I did this. I actually printed it quite large. I don't remember what size this is, but I think it's 3 feet by like 1.5 feet or something, whatever. And this is a metallic finish that I had done, so I didn't have anything. It's not a full metal print or anything, but I am going to hang it up right here, and I think it's going to hopefully look good. I just got to get a backing for it, which I haven't done yet. But I'm so happy with the way that that image turned out. I'm so happy with the way the print turned out. And you know, if you guys watch any of the other big photographers, you know, Thomas Heaton and people like that, you know, you always, Simon Baxter, you always hear them say, print your work. Well, there's a reason. You know, I don't print my work that often, but every time I do, it just blows my mind. You know, it gives you such a great feeling to stare at your work like that, especially when you print it bigger. I will probably actually get an even bigger print of that, and I will probably do it on full metal print. That way I don't have to worry about the backing and it comes ready to hang and all that stuff. I just haven't done it yet. So that was my favorite image of 2020, and I have a couple more that I want to mention. I know this video is getting long, but let's go into wildlife now, because the rest of my favorite images are wildlife. 2020 was by far the best year I've had for wildlife photography, and it was just so much fun. There's so much wildlife here in New Mexico. Again, I'm just stupid lucky to live in a place with such amazing wildlife at my doorstep. I mean, there's literally deer in my yard every day. Let's start with this image right here. This deer, this guy, in that light, and I shot this from my car window with my 1:400 on my R5. This is like a 60-something% crop, so there was another deer in the image actually, and the full-size image looked okay, but once I cropped it to this 4x5 and really got in on him, it really brings out the backlight on him and his, you know, his fuzzy little horns and his cute little ears. And you know, the sun had just come up. It was just at sunrise, and I'm driving. I was actually looking for elk, and I'm driving to the spot that's about 8 miles from my house, and I drove to this spot and back and forth pretty much every day for like a month this late summer, early fall, looking for deer and elk. And this was the first day that I had started doing that, and it just, I almost didn't see him because I was focused on, you know, looking ahead, and I just turned and just saw a little movement, and then just saw him stick his head up, and I just stopped my car real slow on this dirt road, and then just rolled my window, my passenger window down, grabbed the camera, and just nailed it. I just got so lucky with where he was and how the light was coming, breaking through that the trees there and coming up on the horizon. Oh, it was just magical. It was such a great shot. So this is the guy that I was actually looking for. So there's a couple. I knew that there was a big herd of elk in my area. I hear them all the time. I see them all the time, and I knew they were out there. And I was actually looking for this guy. And this guy was a what we call a satellite elk. He had like a little satellite herd. So he wasn't the main top dog, but he did have a little group of his own girls with him, and I knew kind of where they were. I knew that they weren't staying with the big herd, and this shot again from my car, and I was driving to the location I thought he would be, and he was actually even closer. So I had plenty of time to slow down and get out my, I think this shot was with my 400 too, and it was cropped from the R5. But in late September and early October, these flowers in this field just started blooming like crazy. And I just can't recall these flowers blooming that late ever around here. And it was pretty incredible. And it was incredible to see this massive, beautiful animal just walking right through them. And just, they're really, again, you can see just a little bit of the sunlight coming in. I was so lucky with the direction of the light, and the sun, this is right at sunrise, the first ray peeking over, lighting up that field, and those flowers just popping so well. I just don't recall ever seeing those flowers blooming so late. It was late September, early October, and they just really made that scene pop. All right, here we go. Osprey. This is not technically the best wildlife image that I have created this year. From settings alone, there was a few things that I did that messed up, but I certainly do not put this in my failures. I put this in my biggest success, actually, because this image to me is just so fantastic. Catching, I've been going up, this lake is like 25 miles from my house, but it's in the mountains, and because it's in the mountains, you know, super windy, it takes me a little over an hour to get there. But I went up probably at least 15 times out of a month, and I knew the ospreys were only there. I knew that there was a pair there, and I knew that they were only going to be there. They don't winter here. So this was in like September, and I tried to get up there as many times as possible in September. And every day I would see the osprey, and every day I would either get, you know, a generic shot of them in the sky, or they would be diving the wrong direction, or too far away from me, or on the other side, or whatever. And just this day, I was about to head home. I actually got in the car to drive home. I'd finished filming a vlog, one of my wildlife vlogs, and I took all my camo off and everything, driving out of the parking lot, and then I see 3 ospreys circling right above me, and I see them heading towards the lake, and I know what they're going to do. I know they're looking for second breakfast, just like I was. So I turned that car around and went and parked just right there in the boat loading dock of this area, and just stood there, standing up, no camo, no nothing, no hiding, just stood there with my camera out, and I just started following these guys, and he just started diving right in front of me. And I was actually out there, this is the only bummer, is I was out there testing. I did a huge video on the RF800 versus the Tamron 150-600 G2, so you can check that out if you want to see more of these wildlife images and want to know more about the lenses and technical stuff. But the bummer bit was that I had the Tamron 150-600 G2 on my R5, and I had the 1.4 times teleconverter on that as well. So from a technical standpoint, I would have preferred to have my native RF800 on there, or I would have even preferred to have the 600 on there without the teleconverter, because it did give me that little bit of image degradation that I wouldn't have got if I didn't have that teleconverter on. It also slowed down my AF speed a little bit, but luckily the R5 is just such an incredible camera that it stayed locked on. And then the last thing is there is a little bit of motion blur from the animal. I think I had it at 1/1600th or 2,000th of a second, which just wasn't quite fast enough with how I was moving. And if I would have had it up at, you know, about 4,000th of a second, I think that would have been more optimal. But I love this pose. I love the fact that he was looking straight at me. He was coming straight towards me. And I'm so lucky. I captured the entire sequence. I had it on burst. And I just thought that this, with the way his wings were up like that, the way he's looking right at me, it was just a phenomenal shot. You also couldn't tell from this shot alone that he missed the fish, because when he came back up, he didn't have the fish, so he completely missed it. So if I could have gotten any one of those shots in the sequence where he had the big fish, you know, he's flying toward me, that would have been even more amazing. But from this shot alone, you can't tell that he missed the fish, and it just, his composition, the light reflecting from the sunrise and everything, and having those complementary colors of the blue reflecting from the sky, and then the sunlight reflecting on the rest of the water, and having those blues and yellows really makes for a great color theory, and it added to it a little bit. I did pull a little bit of the blues out, but overall this is one of my favorite images from 2020. And just when you capture a moment like that, that is just so hard to capture, and something that I've been trying to do for years and years and years, that feeling it gives you, even with those very minute technical flaws, what I consider minute technical flaws, I am still so happy with this image, and I will print it big, but I haven't yet, and I just cannot wait to see this image printed and hanging up on my wall. Alright, last two, and I could have picked so many images from this trip. So this last image is from my last trip to the Bosque, which I did vlog about, and if you want to see some incredible wildlife footage, it is some of the best wildlife footage that I've filmed all year long. And if you want to see the rest of what I consider really great images from this, you can check that video out as well. I think it's like Wildlife at the Bosque is Insane or something like it. It's my second to last recent video. I live about 2.5 hours away from Bosque, so again, I'm super lucky that I live. Bosque del Apache, in case you don't know, is one of the most famous places in the entire world for photographing sandhill cranes and snow geese in the winter times. They migrate through a lot of areas, through the Rockies and all that stuff, but this is one of the most world famous places to see them. The place is absolutely beautiful. The mountains in the background, the Rio Grande, it's a magical place. So I come here a lot. I've been coming here for years. I do workshops here, I do private tours here, all of that kind of stuff. I have so many, bazillions of photos throughout the years from Bosque del Apache and of the cranes. And the one thing that I really try to do when you photograph a place so many times, you're always trying to think of how you can do it better or different, because eventually you just have so many shots that you're like, I've done that, I've done that, I've done that. And I see so many people out there that go out to Bosque and they bring these massive 600 f4 lenses, and they put the 2x teleconverters on there, and then they shoot on a crop body, and they're shooting at 2,000 millimeters, and it's insane. The detail that you can get, with that kind of stuff, and I'm guilty of that. I've rented those lenses plenty of times when I've done workshops or when I've gone down there and wanted those close-up details. But one of the things I've really come to appreciate about Bosque del Apache over the years, and about wildlife photography in general over the years, is that it's not just about the wildlife. Getting up into those cranes' faces with close to 2,000 millimeters, it's cool for detail shots, but that only goes so far. And to me, wanting to progress as a storyteller and wanting to progress as a photographer, there's so much more than just getting as close as possible to those animals. And this is the perfect example of that, where I just have this beautiful atmosphere, and I had this beautiful tree with a little bit of fall color left on it. And this is just from a couple weeks ago. So, I mean, New Mexico, southern New Mexico, we have a very late fall. The light was just absolutely beautiful. Having the sun had just come up right the very first rays, and you can tell because the wings are just lit up, just their wings are lit up just a little bit. And you can see that how the water that's splashing is lit up, and it's just that first couple minutes of the sun rising. It's just so beautiful. And then the other thing that I really lucked out here, this is a crop, but this is a very intentional crop. I shot the frame in a landscape orientation, so there were more birds, but the way that I cropped this is really what did it for me. And having that tree fill the frame, and then having the fact that there are no birds that are being chopped off coming in or out of the frame, that is what really put it over the edge for me. I mean, there's hundreds of these birds and they all take off, and it's really hard. You just have to spray and pray, and you have to move with them. And you know, I always try to, when I'm shooting wider like this, I always try to keep some semblance of a composition in mind. Like I knew I wanted the tree back there, but you don't have control over like when the birds leave and how they leave. And I lucked out so much with not having any of these birds being chopped off. And I don't think it would have hurt the image if they were, because it's natural. I mean, that's how it was. But I just really lucked out, and I had enough room for this this guy right here in the front for his beak not to be too close to that, and I had just enough room for these two guys' back legs right there to not be chopped off. And as a slightly anal retentive OCD type photographer, that just made me feel so good about having that composition exactly the way I want it, because very rarely in wildlife photography do you get to say you have a composition exactly as you want it, especially when you have multiple animals in the frame like this. I just so lucked out, and that is one of my all-time highlights of Bosque. I have so many amazing images from there, but this I think is definitely my favorite. Alright, that's it. We're going to wrap it up here because it is well beyond second breakfast time, and I'm getting low on my tea, which is not a good sign, and this video has gone on really long. So this is my last video of 2020. Just want to make a quick shout out to all of you guys. I appreciate you so much, even though 2020 has been the crappiest year for everyone, and myself included. The one thing where it hasn't been crappy for me has been I'm super fortunate to be able to do what I do, and you guys are making this possible more every day because my channel is growing every day. You guys are making this possible for me to live my life, take care of my kid, and it's just amazing. So I love you guys from the bottom of my heart. I do have my channel memberships. I have all of these great ways that you guys are supporting me. I love all of the members that I have so far. I have my preset packs, my workshops. If you guys want to hang out with me in the future safely, and hopefully all this stuff will pass soon. 2021 workshops, the last half of 2021 workshops are coming up. I have a couple for that. Olympic National Park is definitely a go for July so far. We're going to be safe, and it's going to be amazing. I got my preset packs down below, so if you guys like the way I edit, you want to try something different with your Lightroom preset packs or your Camera Raw preset packs, check those out. All of the support you guys are giving me, all of the amazing feedback, it pushes me so hard to keep going with this stuff, and I'm so stoked for 2021. So I hope you guys got something out of that. I hope you enjoyed some of my failures as much as some of my successes, and again, huge thanks. I will see you in the next episode in the next year with more tea and more amazing photography. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next year. Unless you're watching this and it's already next year, then I'll see you right now.